Good afternoon, everyone, and I appreciate you for being here today and for participating in this wonderful event as we get information and resource surrounding the Biden administration and its efforts and its work for our communities. We're going to begin today and open up with a word of prayer, and then we will hear from Pastor James McCarroll to give us an outline of today and our occasion. Let us look to the Lord. Oh, great and gracious God, this is the day that you've made, and we choose to rejoice and be glad in it. We are grateful for your goodness, for your kindness, for your mercy, and for your love. We are also eternally grateful to you, oh God, for the nation in which we live. And we're grateful, God, that you have given her principle, you have given her ideal, and we're grateful that you've given us voices to ensure that she lives up to that principle and to that ideal. We thank you for our speaker that has come today. We pray that you would continue to give him traveling grace and mercy, that you would give him wisdom and insight as he advises our nation's leader. We pray, oh God, that as we enter into this season of election, that you would allow voting not to be suppressed, that you would not allow violence, that you would not allow intimidation or threats to rule the day, but that you would allow justice to roll like a mighty stream. We pray today that this meeting and event would be successful, that truth would be shared, and that wisdom and dialogue would be exchanged. It's in your son's name we pray. Together we said, amen.
Good afternoon. It's so good to see everyone this afternoon. I wanted to share with you kind of the nature of this event, how it came to pass and what you can expect. So back in April this year, I had the privilege of going to have lunch at the White House. And on the way out of that lunch, I met a gentleman, and he asked me, what are they saying in the Nashville area about the administration? That gentleman's name was Michael Hayes. He is a special assistant to the President of the United States. And so he said, you know, I really want to hear what's happening there. And I said to him, we want to hear what's happening here. And we realized immediately that there was an information gap between what's happening in Washington and what's happening in the local community. So he challenged me that day to say, if you can put a meeting together so that we can hear from the ground level and you guys can hear from us, it would be greatly beneficial to how we're able to serve that community. So I came back in May, and at that next meeting, he invited Reverend Thomas Bowen to come. And we got a chance to meet, and I'll introduce him a little bit later. But he got a chance to speak, and I heard more from the faith side of things. And so I invited them both here. Due to recent circumstances, Michael was unable to come, but Reverend Bowen made it a point to say, I will be there. And he is here. And so the purpose of today is twofold. One, for you to hear what the administration has done. There are a lot of things that President Biden has done for many of the communities of which we're not familiar. A lot of opportunities, a lot of many initiatives that have taken place and been passed that are we could be direct beneficiaries of. And so to hear some of those, but also, and more importantly, for the administration to hear from us. How many people were born and raised in Nashville? Any? And you know, like I know, I'm a native Nashvilleian, raised in Edge Hill. You know, like I know, there's a grieving happening in our community because we literally have seen our community, for lack of a better term, sold out. And so we come and don't even recognize our own neighborhoods, our own streets, don't recognize the people jogging down our streets, or all of these people who are coming in Airbnbs in our neighborhoods. And it's necessary that with all that's going on, we have an opportunity to voice some of our concerns to the administration. So that's the second part of this, is hearing your feedback, hearing your concerns, not only with our community, but with the high-level leadership in our country, and being able to let your voice be heard so that voice can be taken back to Washington so that our president can hear the concerns of the people here. And so that's what's going to happen today. I want to introduce a couple of people who will come after me. One is Representative Harold Love, who's just a dear friend and brother, who's going to come and bring greetings on behalf of our elected officials. We'll recognize them. And then there's another dear friend and brother, Clifton Harris, who's the president and CEO of the Urban League of Middle Tennessee, and he'll come bring greetings on behalf of our community leaders and our faith community. So at this time, we'll make room for Pastor Love.
Good afternoon. Certainly glad to be here with you. State Representative Harold Love Jr. Let me also ask my colleague, Leader Karen Camper, if she will. She is the Democratic leader in the House of Representatives. And so I serve as assistant leader, and so oftentimes we are working together to make sure that good policy goes forward. Let me also ask, are there other elected officials in the area that are here? If you would stand, please. All right. Well, let me say again, so glad to be here. Let me thank Reverend Bowen for being here. As we know, elected officials at the state level oftentimes are tasked with trying to make sure that what is done at the federal level actually gets put in place at the states, and particularly we've been dealing with a lot here in Tennessee. But we're grateful to be here. It's important for us, again, to know what has been done. We know, Leader Camp and I oftentimes get briefed, but we want you all to know. And so I want you to have an open mind and know that it's a lot that's been done for our communities, and we're looking forward to having expressed so we'll know what we have going forward, moving from a place of fear to a place of hope, knowing that we want to continue some of the good work that is going on. So thank you again for being here.
Well, good afternoon. So good to be here, and thank you all for being here. And on behalf of the community, Brother Tony, we're so glad that you're here today, to hear from the community, because our community is doing a lot here in the Middle Tennessee area. I recently read in Scripture, it says, that you are the apple of my eye. And when I think about that, the community is the apple of God's eye. And he's so close, and he wants us to be so close to him that we can see our reflection in his eyes and stuff. So we are here today to give you just a snippet of our concerns, and to hear and learn from you all the things that this administration is doing. And so welcome, and thank everyone for being here today.
This time we want to introduce Reverend Bowen to you. So Reverend Bowen is a senior advisor for public engagement, where he leads the White House's faith engagement. Previously served as the director of African American strategic engagement in the executive office of the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser, and held dual roles as both director of the mayor's office on African American affairs and the mayor's office of religious affairs, earning him the title of DC's pastor. As an ordained Baptist minister, Reverend Bowen is the Earl L. Harrison Minister of Social Justice at Shiloh Baptist Church in D.C., where he's dedicated his life to service since 2002. His extensive experience includes pivotal roles such as the senior religious advocate for the Children's Defense Fund and the senior field organizer for its Black Community Crusade for Children. He's a graduate of Morehouse College, where he's a Ford Foundation Scholar and served as the president of the NAACP. He studied for the ministry at the Divinity School at the University of Chicago. He's an Ohio native, but he's embraced D.C. as his home for over 2 decades. And he currently resides in the historic Trinidad neighborhood in Northeast D.C. Let me just say this personally, I've had an opportunity to meet him and spend some time. He's just a wonderful brother. He truly loves the Lord, and he loves his people. And so it is a privilege and a pleasure to introduce to most and present to few my dear brother and friend, Reverend Thomas Bowen, who will come at this time. Can we give him a Nashville welcome? So what he'll share, and then after he finishes sharing, we'll open up the floor for Q&A. This microphone in the middle is designated specifically for those who would like to come and ask questions.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. To Reverend Marble, I want to thank you for opening up your doors for this gathering, as you are apt to do, for we know that Jefferson Street Missionary Baptist Church is a church we reckon with, a church that meets people at the point of their needs. You know, we have a lot of occupied pulpits with empty theology. But your pastor is one who preaches from the depths of his heart. He preaches with intelligence, baptized in fire. And someone he knows saw that I dare make my way here today, and he hit me up on Facebook and said, "That's my pastor." So I know that his reputation goes wide. To my friend, Reverend James McCarroll, I didn't know that I was going to need to pack a suit that was a size bigger, but we were already dined sufficiently with more of Nashville's cuisine to take in. And to Pastor and Assistant Leader Love, thank you for your presence, and to Leader Camper, continue to stay on the wall. I was on the board of trustees for Lorain County Urban League, and the leader of your urban league here told me, once an urban leaguer, always an urban leaguer. So thank you, President Harris. I like saying that, President Harris. I must say that I'm here in my official capacity at the White House. The Hatch Act governs my remarks, so I'm not going to talk about anything related to the campaign. I'm just going to talk about what we done did and what we will continue to do. Nashville has a very special place in my heart. I first came to Nashville off a bus from Elyria, Ohio in the fall of 1983. It was my dream then to attend Fisk University, to be a Bulldog. I was assigned to Du Bois Hall 206. Walter Leonard was president of Fisk, and Dr. David Satcher was at Meharry. But lo and behold, I, for some reason, did not fill out a federal financial aid package, and that was the linchpin to all the financial aid I could get. So my package was incomplete. Dean Satcher was there, and over student affairs, she said, "You can work it out." But I decided to go back home and to work. Called myself in love, so I saw that as a sign to go home and to work. But then I heard about a school in Atlanta. I applied there and made my way down to Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. But Fisk occupies a special place still in my heart. I'm envious of those who walk through those corridors. The pastor of my church, Reverend Dr. Wallace Charles Smith, is retiring at the end of the year of 33 years of service. But before he came to the Shiloh Baptist Church of Washington, D.C., he was the pastor of the First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill. And Reverend Carroll just told me that his daughter, who's on the faculty at University of Texas, Austin, I'll be in Austin tomorrow, that they went to elementary school here when they lived when they lived here in Tennessee. So truly, this world is small. You know, someone said that once you make it over, don't forget to praise the bridges that brought you over. And we cannot afford to have amnesia. We cannot afford to forget what was our state of our affairs when President Biden and Vice President Harris first came into office. And COVID, with all its mysteries, had us in its grip. But when President Biden came to office, He used science and sense, faith and fortitude to address that and to take us and release the grip of that devastating pandemic. Let us not forget what we had to endure. So we rolled our sleeves up and went to work and launched one of the most ambitious vaccination campaigns in history, utilizing faith leaders as credible messengers. You know, when COVID first hit, I can recall people saying, black folk can't get it. Then that song changed and said, oh, they're targeting black folk. And then when the vaccine came, people were saying, don't take it, it's gonna harm black folk. And then when it hit the market, people were saying they're keeping us from getting it, the vaccine. You can't win sometimes for losing, but it was President Biden, Vice President Harris, that took us through those dire times. And so, if we had not made it through that, where would we be? Launched one of the most ambitious vaccination programs and campaigns to ensure that vaccines reach every corner of our country, and particularly those who were disproportionately impacted by COVID. Here in Nashville, the American Rescue Plan provided vital financial assistance for families and small businesses, helping to keep our communities afloat during these challenging times. We learned some new words like essential workers. Well, I like what the head of our Intergovernmental Affairs, Tom Perez, says, that anyone who has a family to support is an essential worker. We expanded the Affordable Care Act as people were still determined to fight that and to overturn that in the courts. But thanks be to God, we still have access to the Affordable Care Act, making health care more accessible and affordable for millions of Americans. We committed to reducing health care disparities, ensuring that every person, regardless of their zip code, has access for quality care. And we are witness right now a robust economic recovery. Job creation is up. Let me say that again. Job creation is up, and small business, particularly black-owned, minority-owned businesses, are receiving the support they need to thrive. If you don't believe me, just look how fast hot chicken in Nashville is taking off all over the country. We're creating, in our Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, is creating good-paying jobs and modernizing our infrastructure, benefiting urban and rural communities alike, including those in Tennessee. When I was coming of age, it was thought that folk who didn't have something beyond a high school education, that the only jobs available to them were at the grocery store bagging groceries, or at the gas station pumping gas. But now we're creating something called infrastructure jobs. And to see folk out there on the highways and other places helping to rebuild the infrastructure, those are jobs. Those are good paying jobs. Those are jobs with health care. Those are jobs with benefits. Those are jobs being occupied by the essential workers because they are the ones taking care of their families. It used to be that poverty was a bad word. You couldn't say poverty. And you know, we learned a lot during the pandemic. One, we learned that we had money that we didn't know about, and we can do things that heretofore we had just fought about. But during the pandemic, we expanded the child tax credit, lifted millions of children out of poverty, including many in our own communities. And we are also fighting to raise the minimum wage and support paid family leave, ensuring that hardworking families like yours can make ends meet and provide for their loved ones. And let me just say this about that. You know that you're having the wrong economic discussion when you are debating and discussing what's the least you could pay someone. It's not about a minimum wage. It's about a fair wage. It's about an affordable wage. And we need to raise the bar. I'm mindful of the late Ted Kennedy in the well of the Senate when they were debating minimum wage years ago. And there was someone who shared the same party who was against the minimum wage. And he stood up and said that anybody who's against raising the minimum wage ought not call themselves a Democrat. We are folk who know that you really never can pay people what they're worth, only God can, but we can do our best and we can do our part. And people need to understand that just as you write books about your family and their poverty, then you ought to be very understanding of folk and the circumstances. How dare we blame people for their own economic situation? We blame people in our country for being poor. And I don't know what's further away from the truth and what's further away from the love that we're supposed to espouse in the church than that type of logic and that type of talk. So we have to do more, and we have to do all that we can to make sure that we are helping those at the bottom rung of the ladder. Because in our country, too often, there's not only a glass ceiling, there's a sticky floor that keep people in that same cycle over and over again. From day one, President Biden and Vice President Harris have been committed to advancing racial equity. Through executive orders and targeted initiatives, we are addressing systemic racism in housing, education, and criminal justice. We established the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council to tackle the disproportionate impact of climate change on communities of color. And at a basic level, everyone should be able to have access to clean drinking water. It doesn't get any more basic than that we all deserve to have access to clean drinking water. And this administration opened up the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention. One of our significant, yeah, you can clap for that. And behind this has been Vice President Harris and a good friend of mine, Greg Jackson, who's the Deputy Director of the office. They've held meetings not only at the White House, but in communities like this, because we have to continue to commit ourselves and resources to address gun violence, which disproportionately impacts our communities, including those right here in Nashville. And that office coordinates across federal agencies to reduce gun violence and support affected communities through policy, research, and community engagement. We should be able to pass sensible gun legislation in this country. If you love someone, then you should stand for regulating the gun that may have taken out that person in the first place. But here we are having this discussion over and over again when we know the majority of folk understand, even those who champion gun rights, know that there are some things, there are just some things that are basic. We can't do enough for our young people. When I was a youth minister at Shiloh, I'm in recovery now. Well, actually, it taught me ministry. If you want to learn how to do ministry, just spend some time, as some of you all are doing, leading a youth group or being a youth minister. You'll learn a whole lot of what it means to administer to people in need. And I will tell people all the time, unless you're doing something for young people, you have forfeited your right to criticize them. Because the reality is, as Mary Elderman taught me, we don't have a youth problem in our country, we have an adult problem. Too many adults have harmed young people. Too many have broken their promise. Too many have walked out on them. We don't have a youth problem. We have an adult problem. Youth aren't taking cars and selling them to other youth. Those are adults who are incentivizing those young people to go into the streets and take that which is not theirs. So we cannot do enough to help our young people who are in dire need of better examples, in dire need of people who believe them and who are willing to lift them up. And in the Biden-Harris administration, we are creating pathways to success for young people through job training and apprenticeships. I wish that all our young people would go to college, but that's not the route for some of them. Some of them need training programs. Some of them need someone to take them in an apprenticeship program, which puts them on a track to becoming a union member, which allows them to get on for certain jobs. They have opportunities. Some of them can utilize their skills to become the next Steve Jobs. to learn more about where this computer age is taking us. And so we have to present our young people not with a cookie cutter format, but with a menu and opportunities that fit them and their needs. College is wonderful for many, for most, but it's not for everybody. So programs that fit their needs where they can get into the workforce immediately and make not just a living wage, but a wage that can help to foster their dreams. Those are the things that we are currently trying to do. And we also know that no other administration has created or increased funding for HBCUs than this administration. That perhaps if the funding was in place when I was trying to matriculate in '83, I would not have had to board that bus and go back to Elyria, Ohio. So this administration is putting more funding in HBCUs that will benefit not only places like Fisk, but even Tennessee State University. And we are committed to making higher education more affordable and closing the educational achievement gap. We are creating pathways to success for our young people. You know, I must admit, I was a little jealous as some of my younger colleagues would jump for joy when they get an email letting them know that their loans had been forgiven. I was a little jealous, but then I had to recall that tuition when I was trying to go through school was only $6,000 a year. And that couldn't get you a plane to the university that you want to go to these days. That there are young people who had debts of $50,000 and $75,000, but you all elected a president to do something about it, and that's what he has done. And so we know that President Biden and Vice President Harris have made significant strides in providing student loan relief. And to date, we have forgiven over $127 billion in loans for public service workers, disabled borrowers, through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And what I like about the administration is that every time we find that there's someone who did not benefit, then we go immediately to work to find a way to extend that loan forgiveness. So if you have not had your loans forgiven, don't worry. Help is still on the way. We're going to ring your door, check your email, because as the president has told us that we still have work to do, and we have to run through the tape like our stars are going to do at the Olympics in Paris. And so we celebrate. And it really didn't hit me. I got over my jealousy quickly when in a meeting at the White House, someone came in and was talking about how their loans had been given. And they had to finish it with tears going down their cheeks. And I said to myself, look at God. That's how powerful that, but that has ramifications because that person then can go on to become a homeowner instead of having to worry about how many thousands of dollars that it owes in loans. And the Biden-Harris administration has actively engaged with faith-based organizations to address community needs. That's how I'm able to come to you right now. That in the administration, and didn't start with us, but we continued it, we have Centers for Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships in the Department of Labor, in the Department of Education, in Housing and Urban Development, Health and Human Services, the EPA, the Department of Justice, and other offices, which talk about and share ways in which churches like this can perhaps get the grant dollars to do the ministry that you already are doing. Because you deserve that type of support. You all witnessed the tape that dropped on last Monday out of Springfield, Illinois. The death of Sonia Massey. We got to say her name, Sonia Massey. A beloved mother, a friend, a daughter, a churchgoer. And you know someone grew up in church when they dare say the word with their last breath, I rebuke you. You don't get that in the streets. You don't get that in the drug den. You get that because you've been in church a mighty long time, and yet and still someone saw fit to take her life. is senseless, and President Biden has made it clear that when we call for help, we should do so without fear. And that Sonia's death at the hands of a responding officer underscores the fears that too many of us face each and every day. And that's why, once again, the president has called and urged us for the passage of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, because our commitment to justice and equality remains unwavering. These are difficult days, but these are not impossible days. For I know someone who can walk in the room. I know someone who sits high but looks low. I know someone who puts the sun blazing in the sky in the morning and comes back and tucks it under his arms in the evening and returns the next day to put it in its rightful place. I know someone who's able to keep us from falling and to present us faultless before the throne. And because I know somebody, I have hope. You can't make me doubt him. I know too much about him. I got a joy this world didn't give to me and a joy that the world can't take it away. I got a joy that election didn't give it to me and an election can't take it away. I got a joy, a deep-seated joy. And I recall the words of Maltby Babcock. We are not here to play, to dream, or to drift. We got work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. 'Tis God's gift. Be strong.
So at this time, we'll entertain any comments or feedback you all may have.
Yes. I'm a member here at Jefferson Street, and when I walked in the door, I promised them that I was going to be nice. Everybody here they know me. They know that I will speak my mind. But what I'm going to say today, and I am going to keep my promise, I am going to be nice. And the question that I have for you, my brother, is you going to be a part of the Harris administration? Because we need to, and my question is, how many of them that's going to transfer from the Biden administration into the Harris campaign? And I know you can't really talk about the campaign, but I think your voice is a voice that needs to be there, that could continue with Harris as you have been with Biden. Because you have filled us in on some things today. And I can tell that your heart is in it. And when your heart is in it, compassion is in it, then you do a good job. And when you spoke about this next generation, our kids, that is important. You spoke on the apprenticeship programs. I remember when I was coming up, that was a big thing, apprenticeship programs. I don't hear too much talked about it these days. I got a nephew, well, he's my great-nephew. He's my sister's kid. So, and he's 18, he just turned 18. And Lord, the struggles that child is going through and can't get his footing. There isn't too many opportunities out there for him. You got the drug dealers, and you talked about that, these adults out there, they prey on those type kids. They're easily influenced with money, with the bling. They say, why would I go work at McDonald's for $7, $8 an hour when I can go make $1,500 a week, out here doing illegal stuff in the underground economy? So I just want to know, my question is, and I'm gonna sit down, how many, do you have a feel for how much of the Biden administration and folks like yourself that are going into the Harris campaign and it's going to be helping out, in this new administration with the with the transfer of things because the landscape has changed greatly since last Sunday. And I know it's been a quick change, but yeah, I think it was a very welcome change. I mean, I love Joe Biden. I think he's a good man. He's an honest man and all that. Because we need people to speak the truth. There's a lot of lies going on out there. And it is hard to run lies down, but more people got to start speaking up with the truth. When they come out with a lie, you got to hit back with the truth. You can't wait. But anyway, I just want to know how many of you guys are, planning on helping Kamala Harris. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question, and thank you for being nice. And of course, once again, I cannot speak about the campaign or the transition. I just know, and it's been a different year for me. It was come Monday, it'll be a year since I lost my mother. I saw her for the last time alive a year ago on Thursday. When I was going through the process for this position, all I wanted to do every day was tell my mama. And I imagine walking through the doors with my mama and her purse in her hand and her hat on her head. But I also know that before loan forgiveness, it was my mama sending a check to make sure that those loans, even if I ever got a payment, were paid off. I'm starting there because I think that what we need are young people who can intern for Assistant Leader Love, who can intern for Leader Camper, who can cut their teeth. We're grateful for the CBC that has an internship program, and now someone has put HBCU housing so that people interning on the Hill will have a place that's affordable to stay there as interns. We have to get our young people involved in civic participation and in politics. And I, like Martin King, I'm a product of the Black church. There was a Jefferson Street in my life. It was Bethany Baptist Church in between Middle Avenue and West Avenue on 17th Street. That made me stand up, didn't give me a choice in manner, as I said, my Christmas piece and my Easter piece. Even though I had a stutter and still have a stutter and still have to work through that, but the Black church produced me. And I think that once we begin and nurture young people, I know that the Urban League had a wonderful program this summer, that we then prepare our young people to take on these jobs and take on these positions. And perhaps we can elevate folk like the assistant leader and leader. Everything we need, we really have in the Black community. And all the things, some of the things going on have their roots in the Black community. That people who left Tennessee during the Great Migration and made their way to places like Cleveland, there wasn't an Airbnb. There was a mat on the floor, some coverings and a pillow over some books. That's what we did until we got on. It wasn't a job search. Someone you knew had a job. They said, I can get you on. And then they trained you. If you go down there and sully my name, I'm going to put you on a bus right back down to Nashville again. Before there was an Uber or a Lyft, there we were catching rides with friends and taking people on, and we had hacks, if you will. A lot of the things now they call a part of the gig economy, right? We were given loans before we can get them from banks and other places. And we know that when a person was late on that loan you gave them, we know how the conversation went. Don't forget about me now. You got that? And when you really got late, oh, those nice shoes you got on. But I think that we're just going to have to stay the course and keep on keeping on. And what we cannot do is leave the Black church. So just think about it. The Black church is our strength. Why is it that they say that there are another generation that doesn't understand the strength of the Black church, but some other people are are vandalizing black churches because they know of the strength. It's the same thing about the vote. The vote doesn't matter, but there's so many efforts to keep us from voting, right? And we have to understand our strength, the black church, and the ability to vote. And those will open up doors of opportunity for us. But a part of all that is making sure there's a pipeline, and that's what I'm getting back to. Because our kids know how to make do, right? And we got to support our young people in that regard. That when young people are going to do internships on the Hill, that they don't come with money. And so we have to be able to support them financially. I'm grateful for the saints. Many of them gone to glory, who put some spending money in my hand, who gave me an envelope, right? And gave me an envelope and a prayer. That I always wondered when I went home in between sessions in school, my mom always got me in the car to go by to my relative's house. We're going to go over here, right? Just going to sit. I didn't realize that person was going to my mom's house, giving my mom money to put towards my tuition. And my mom just wanted me to go and sit and say thank you and to see about them. But we're going to get back to some of that. I didn't dodge your question, but I dodged your question. Yes.
How you doing? It's my turn, Will. It's my turn, Will. How you doing?
Doing well.
My name is Felicia, so I'm a 20-plus year educator. I got a whole lot, but I'm frustrated because we know the orange man is here today. You can't even get downtown, but look around here. We're not even showing up. I preach every day we don't have a student problem. We have an adult problem. So if you saw me back, I was cheering. I preach it every day. With almost 3 generations out of the church, because my generation is not in the church, my age. And then I have an adult child who could easily have a child. So we almost 3 generations out. I learned everything that I needed to keep going here in the church. I grew up here. I commend it, but our kids are not here. We're always doing a lot of talking, and I'm tired of talking. I feel like you're here today, but you're preaching to the choir. The people that are here are not the ones who need to hear it. And this is a continuous thing. I'm tired of burying my kids. We're talking about gun reform. What is gun reform going to do if I'm a legal person who can get a gun lawfully, but they're stealing it from me? So that gun reform is not going to stop me from getting a gun. What's stopping him from stealing it from me? We need more education. We need more training for people like me who are going to get guns. We need more programming for kids that is not controlled by the people who want to control and allow us only. We're going to give you this money, but they got their hand on their money because they really don't want us to be successful. But we don't have a lot of people. Everybody want to blame the school system. We don't have enough teachers. I don't blame them because of what's happening in the schools. There's nothing. I used to take kids home. I used to take kids to colleges. Now if I do that, that's a slap on the hand. So they're controlling what I can do with my black kids. I can only do so much, but outside organizations, churches are not. Do you know how many churches we call on and pastors and they tell us they don't have time? I'm sick of hearing about what the church is going to do. We're calling on the church. And they're telling us, big pastors, I don't have time. So I don't want to keep hearing about the church when we're talking. And look, we're not even here. We're not showing up for our kids. We're not doing anything. We know, you said, we know we need those programs in the school for our kids. The college is not everybody, but they're not there. We know it. Why isn't it there? That's intentional. I go into the JDC. There's no control. That is a break for those kids. My name is hot on the street. Let me go to school, get in the gang fight. Guess where I'm going to go? I know I'm easily finna go to the JDC. I can chill out for a minute. They're telling me that. I have young black boys telling me, I would rather live 25 years and kick it than struggle for 70. What do we tell these kids? We don't have black men coming up showing some of these boys away. My daddy taught me how to change a tire because he didn't trust a million. So I could change my oil, change my tire, because my dad saw what we were producing as men. And I know I'm at fault. I have a little boy, and I realize we raise our girls and love our sons. We have an absence of the black father more and more. Just because you're in the house don't mean you're present. And we're not talking about those things. And it is frustrating. I'm sick of it. My brother's a pastor. I go to the state convention. I'm seeing all these men, all in their suits, and I don't see none of them in the community doing anything. Nothing. All they want to do is speak out, I'm president of this convention, but you do nothing but line your pockets. I'm tired of it, and all we do is talk. Where did some action come forth? You're talking about getting kids to be interns for them. But guess what schools they go to? They go to Hillsborough, they go to MLK, they go to Hume Falls. They're not going to Whites Creek and Maplewood and Pearl Cone to get those kids who are really able to do it. They might not have a 3.5 GPA, but they're smarter than anybody else, and they know the streets. But we're not doing that. All we do is talk. I see so many politicians talking. My position, I'm in every high school in the district. I don't see any of them. I don't see any of the programs we need. None. And then when we come forth with ideas, it's like, no, or we're not able to get the funding for it. Or people like me who's in the school system, it's a conflict of interest. If I try to create something and need funding because I'm in a school district, I can't do that. And so basically my question is, what is the federal government going to do to come into these cities and these towns to really make a difference and give some of us I don't have a lot of influence. I'm not a hero love. Most people don't know me, but I'm willing to get in the street and work, but I don't have the influence to get the funds needed. And I'm just tired of talking. And I just need somebody to do something.
Well, thank you for that. And I'll be the first to say when I say that we have an adult problem, that I consider myself to be a part of the problem. Not that I don't do anything, because I do something, but I don't think I'm doing enough, that I could ever do enough, that I need to do more at each and every turn. Morehouse has a saying that over the heads of her students, she holds a crown, which she challenges them to grow tall enough to wear. And as soon as you reach that crown, you should hear a voice saying higher and higher. It's not what I have done, it's what will I do going forward. That when there's a death of a young person in D.C., I ask myself, how could I have impacted that life in a positive way? So I need to make the time to be in a consistent mentoring program, because the worst thing you can do is get into the program and then leave out of it, right? And then that person feels dejected that someone else has walked out of their lives. I think we need to celebrate those who are doing the work. You all might think that, oh, I've done some things in my life, but the people I look up to are the fathers. I look up to my friends who are fathers of children, and that's where I have joy. I have two lovely goddaughters. One just turned 7, one turned 13. I try to be there for them. I go to the daddy dance, although I'm just the godfather. I make sure I have them in dance class and play in theater classes in the summer, because that's just my way of giving back. And so we need to support those and celebrate those who are doing the work, and then perhaps commit ourselves to being there for at least one person in our community, if not more. In terms of what the government can do, I think that we can help share about the examples of what people are doing around the country that is working on behalf of young people. That in Washington, D.C., they have a program that is only for young people from 16 to 23 who have been involved in the criminal justice system, that they will guarantee you a job. They'll guarantee it for a year with the hope that the employer would take over, right? But that's a part of the initiative, and we can share with other communities. And we know that there are some places, some jurisdictions, when the money goes to the state, that there are some people who occupy certain positions who won't take advantage of that money. So I told someone yesterday in the meeting, we got to find a ways to get money for these youth development programs that can make their way through. Why not funnel it through national organizations and let the Urban League be able to take its programs to scale? But also, don't grow weary by how many people are in this room. So someone said something to me a few months ago that stuck with me. We preach to the choir because we need the choir to sing. And so that's what it is, that you all are the messengers that we need to tell someone. And sometimes, my involvement in the church, it came out of threats. I didn't have a lawyer growing up in my house. I was just threatened. You going. When I was youth minister, I called a parent to see if they want to participate. They said, hold on, let me ask them. I'm like, ask them? I wish I had that. No, I don't wish I had that, because if I had that option, I wouldn't be here right now. And so some of that is getting and drilling down on what it means to parent, not wanting to be liked by the child and their siblings. You're the coolest parent on the block. You can be the coolest and also disciplinarian at the same time. Because Lorraine Hansberry put in that wonderful play, Raisin in the Sun, say it after me, in this house, right? There is still God. And so some of it is we gotta tie some of what we're doing for our young people to what we want them to do. Because I'm of the belief that if we can drag our kids to church, that somehow, some way, something will sink into their minds and their hearts. I believe that because that's what happened to me. That after a while, they didn't have to drag me to go to church. After a while, I was the only person in the house going to church. I'd go to a neighbor's to catch a ride. I'd walk if I have to. Because there was something about being at church with my grandparents that I just loved. Not that everybody liked me, but there was something there. I had no idea that years later I'd be a minister. But there was something that I couldn't let go. So don't grow weary in your well-doing. That we preach to the choir because we want the choir to be able to sing. Yes.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Beverly Brazelton Townsend. I'm the youngest of 10 children who were born from 1929 to 1950. I'm 10. As I said, I'm the youngest. I'm number 10. But the thing is, my dad was born in 1894. He didn't have formal reading and education, but he had a 6th grade, maybe level. My mother had high school education. But he knew that we should go to school clean, respectful, and ready to learn. So we've got to tell our young parents, you don't have to be educated and super. All we need to do is send a child to school who's ready and disciplined to learn. Like we said, we don't have a child problem, we have a parent problem. We've got to put more money in our parents. Our parents who are at home, most of the parents our children are going to school are having problems, they're at home every day. So we've got to go in and speak to those who can be spoken to encourage them to have a more homely home for the children and to love their boys. We hear our parents sometimes, especially, talking to our boys in such a mean way. Sometimes I hear them in the store calling them all kinds of names, or their children, and I'll just try to ease it up, say, I know you're a good student. I know you're so-and-so. The moms look at us like we're crazy, and why are you talking to my child? And I say, oh, I know he's going to be a good student. Sometimes they accept it, sometimes they don't. So what I'm saying is that we do need to get some more parent programs. People are talking about having more community activities for the children. Yes, but we need more parent and student activities. Get some buses and take the parents with the children down the road. $0. You don't have to pay $1. For those who want to go, give them a weekend out of town and everything together. Give them a weekend on the lake. There's some things that we can do. As Michelle Obama and President Obama said, as we have gone through school and achieved our grades and achieved our jobs, when the doors of success open for us, leave them open so that others may walk through. We're leaving that door open. It's a difficult door, though. It's a difficult door. As you heard Felicia, the teacher, say a few minutes ago, I'm a generation before she is. It's a tough door right now. The door was easier for the baby boomers, but it's tough for these young teachers out there. But I want to tell them to stay the course, because what it is, it's a calling. Right now, if you have a job and you're not in that calling of it, teachers, I want to encourage you. When you go back in that classroom, take control. Take mental control. Walk in there with your suits on and whatever. Walk in there not looking like the student. Walk in there looking like the teacher. We're going to have to get people to come in. It's something about the kids. I was walking around the library one day. I had a suit on and everything. This little boy said, who is that new supervisor? And got quiet. Sometimes it's how you like them, but also you got to show them some role models about what a successful person looks like in life and things like that. So we've got to get on the ball. We have a lady who's come through, Kamala Harris. When Maya Angelou put pen to paper to write about the phenomenal woman, she was thinking about Kamala Harris, dynamic woman. Not only Kamala, all the women sitting here and men. She was writing about phenomenal people who could lead. It only takes so many. It doesn't take a whole household. The place can just be 2 or 3 is gathered. They can go out and tell the story. Everybody in the Bible didn't make it to the promised land, but they walked along and took them on into the promised land. And right now, we are the dream of the slave. We got to get our people to the promised land, to keep freedom, to keep justice, and to do the best that we can be with our children. Yes, our children are rambunctious. I've had some to threaten me. I've worked with the gangs and things like that. But when I walked through them, I prayed. One day they asked me, one day it was our vice, a group up and grabbed me one day. Not physically grabbed me. They said, who are you? Walking this community. I said, I'm your community person. I'm here to help and to love you. And when I left, they left me a note saying that they were glad that I was in the community. So the thing is, you have to learn how to deal with them and their issues and stuff and encourage them to be the best that they can be and to watch out for each other and love you one another as God has loved us. I want to thank you here. So my thing is that what you just said, encourage the young teachers and the young people as they're coming through, because service is the space that we pay for God's gift on this beautiful earth we have.
Thank you. And I want to be sure to mention to you all, and particularly to the last speaker, that these kind of gatherings are important, because when I'm in meetings representing us, the question is asked, so what are people thinking about such and such? And I got confirmation today when the sister was talking about the need to have some type of federal support, because I was just on a call again yesterday when someone was talking about that. And that becomes confirmation. So these are the stories and these are the things that I take back. At the Children's Defense Fund, they had a poster, and a poster said, live your life as if someone's watching, because someone is. And it was just talking about God, is talking about the people in the community, and particularly the young people, that they see us, they observe us, and we are sermons walking and talking. And with all that we're saying, we know that we cannot give up on our kids. That even when they have something to say, we have to keep on keeping on. And I heard Reverend Dr. Freddie Hayes say some years ago, you can't clean any fish you haven't caught. And so we accept people as they are. But something will change. I didn't always dress like this, with Ferragamo shoes and Samuelson suits and Gucci ties and Hermes watch. No, I was a little snotty-nosed kid in the back with some jeans on and some skates. That's plastic bottoms on the shoes. But as I grew and saw things and saw people, there's something about me that wanted to change and wanted to be like the people that I had seen around me and growing up. We are the role models. Even when we don't think that we're being role models, those are the days when, so don't let them catch you slipping. Those are the days that we stand clear, but we cannot clean any fish that we haven't caught.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for your comments today. My name is Mia McNeil, and I wanted to shift to the other end of the spectrum for a second. We've talked a lot about youth, but I want to talk about older Americans. So my question to you, and let me say I want to thank President Biden's administration for actually focusing on caregivers, those people who actually care for those who are aging, particularly those who are in the middle, caring for children and also caring for their parents. But what we know here in Nashville is that the highest surge of population in this city has been those 65 and older. And so the question is, how are we accommodating for that obviously huge shift in population, not only in Nashville or in the state of Tennessee, but in this country? And what type of supports can older Americans receive that the Biden administration is working on that we should know about today?
Thank you for that very direct question. And I will point you to some of the resources coming out of Health and Human Services. And I think as we're looking, and there's this whole a model of making sure that our cities have environments when people can age and age in place, that's some of what we're seeing. I think it's informing a lot of our decisions. But there's someone in my office, Anna Purge, who handles that portfolio. And she has a meeting with folks like yourself on a weekly basis. So I want to put you in contact with Anna, because that's her work. So let's make sure, I don't want to, I have it in my phone, and I can give it to you. I didn't want to say the wrong email address. That's the worst thing you can do. It gives someone the wrong direction. So I'll take the time to meet you before you leave, and anyone else who wants to know what we're doing in that area, because we have weekly calls. Like, I have a weekly call. Every Thursday at 12, I have a faith leaders call. The invitation goes out to about 30,000 plus people. I have about 800 people who register. I'll have anywhere between 200, 300 people that come, and I try to give information in real time that is relevant for what's going on. When there is a problem with signing people up for financial aid, and then on my call, I had people from the Department of Ed to talk about how the churches are getting involved to help, to bring counselors into the churches to sign kids up for financial aid. But Anna Purge, she does great work. She handles our portfolio not only with the Asian community, but also with the disability community. So we'll be sure. I'll be sure to give that her email, and she's better than I am. She'll respond quickly. It's gonna take me 23 hours and 59 minutes, but I get to you back within a day. Reverend Carroll's like, it'll take you longer than that. But I want to give you Anna's number information so she can talk about what we're doing, and also you can share about your needs. It's not just about what we think you need. We need to find out what you need, and that's why I've come out here today. I didn't come out here just to get out of D.C. Yeah, I didn't come out here just to get out of D.C. I came because I need to get out that bubble and to see what my peeps are saying in Nashville.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. My name is Ashford Hughes Sr. Two really quick questions. The first question is, does your office, I've looked online, that there's a little bit of a gap between the great information that you've provided and what the White House is doing and what the community knows. Are there one-pagers or things that we can share in the community that highlights the work that's being done, particularly around economics and how it has an impact on community, or the graphs or the short videos that we can bring back to the community, because sometimes the community that's not always uber engaged doesn't feel it sometimes and doesn't know exactly some of the things that you said. So are there one pages, are there things that we can bring back to the community to bring information and clarity back? That's my first question.
Yeah, so once again, there are 3 calls that you need to be on, and one is there's an African American community call each week. My colleague, Faven Solomon, she holds that call, and somehow, Reverend Carroll, I need to give you all 3 different email addresses. Anna Purg for the seniors, give you Faven Solomon so you can get her newsletter, one. For the Black community, and then my email so you can sign up for my calls and my newsletters, because it's almost like asking the question: if a tree fall in the woods and no one's there, does it make a sound? We have all these things that people don't know about. What's the point? So yeah, we do have those resources, and you're saying, is there a one-pager? Guess what? If not, then I can put one together. So for Reverend Carroll, let's make sure that we can get you all a one-pager. And I get it. Sometimes there are people going to communities to ask for information. I take the time and look it up, and I send it to them. So I can get you a one-pager about the economics. There's a brother at Treasury. He is bad. He is great. I think he's the Undersecretary for Treasury. He's going around to communities. I could easily, Reverend Carroll, just get him on a call so that you all can talk and hear from him. We can have a separate Zoom call that talks about economics with you all. That's what we do all the time. And different communities come to us. That's the whole point of having Office of Public Engagement. So let's do that kind of call.
And the reason I say one page is sometimes the information online isn't accessible to everybody. It's a lot of academic and high political innuendo instead of being accessible to the majority of the community. That's why I say that. Second last question, I guess within your office, do you work with former Mayor Steve Benjamin?
That's my boss.
Okay, that's what I thought. Are there any discretionary funds that, and this may go to the young lady that asked the question before, discretionary funds for local organizations that are working with the young males, young females, that can actually do this work and bring to scale some of the work? If we also work with Brother Love, Sister Camper on their work here, but are there federal discretionary funding that we can reach out to and find more about?
Once again, and I hope we're getting all this down, we have the Center for Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships at the Department of Health and Human Services, at the Department of Education, and they have grants available for different things. Of course, I don't know all of the programs that they have, but I know that there's funding available for many things. I learned this from the Campaign to Prevent Teenage Pregnancy. They were giving grants to folk, and the grants were for folk who were just having, not just having, but who were having Bible study, who were having Girl Scouts programs, who having these programs with young people already, because they were the mindset that any time spent with young people was time that could be counted as preventing teenage pregnancy. So they were giving out dollars. So there are grants, and some of the conversations we're having in our churches are the things that, you can build in and get funded if you're talking about nutrition, which you should be talking about with our young people. It pained me that every time we had a youth meeting gathering growing up, that all I could offer them was pizza. And if I tried to stop serving pizza, it was a fight. It's just like when we have funerals and have a repast and serve the same food that led to the death of the person we came to eulogize. That we can do a whole lot better. You won't lose your church by offering baked chicken along with fried chicken. I don't know, that might be a fight. but there's some things that we can do. Because once again, let's not forget that the people who were most vulnerable during the pandemic were those with pre-existing conditions. And some of that is not just our choice, because that's blaming the victim, right? Because in some communities, we don't have access to certain type of food. I think it was James Baldwin that said, no one knows how expensive it is to be poor as those who are poor. Something along those lines. It is not cheap being poor. You're paying more for everything than other people are doing. But there are programs in government that have grants that support certain things, and these things are what some of our churches could avail themselves of. I know that for a fact, because when I worked for the mayor for 7 years in D.C., I ran the Office of Religious Affairs, African American Affairs, and Father, Men, and Boys. And we had a group called the Interfaith Preparedness Advisory Group. It was my office, the police department, and Homeland Security that we convened churches to get them to apply for security grant programs from the federal government. And each and every year for at least 4 years, we were successful in getting, for 4 years, we were able to get at least 10 to 12 different churches and synagogues and mosques, those grants. And those grants were for $90,000 on the average, which paid to reinforce the doors, put better lighting, and all these things to help fortify. But that's because we intentionally pulled together people to walk them through. And there are a lot of resources in the government we just don't know about, because if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. So let's get the Department of Ed and Homeland Security, Health and Human Services. Dr. Q English is a bad sister. She'd be more than happy to talk to you about the grants available that will help to support. One of the things that she's doing is addressing black male suicide. That's something that the church can't be afraid to say in the pulpit, because we have to stop stigmatizing mental health. Something wrong with him. He cray. He's touched. Well, if you know these things, get the person some help. That's a cry for help. And we know that we have to get rid of this whole notion of toxic masculinity, that boys do cry. that boys can break down, that men can break down, that life gets heavy. And I'm of the mindset that if you black in America, you need a therapist. And you can love Jesus and have a therapist at the same time. In fact, the two go in concert.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Albritton, and I'm a product of the HBCU right up the street. You mentioned the funding that the Biden administration has put forth during their 4 years. My question is, the TSU was underfunded $2.5 billion over the last several years. Has anything been put in place to make sure that when funding comes from the federal government, it makes it to where it needs to go so that we don't run into these types of situations again?
And that becomes the problem, as the leader and assistant leader would tell you, that we had to fight for Affordable Care Act. And there are people who were just not wanting to access it because of who was behind it. That's malpractice. That's political malpractice. That's just bad, right? And so we need, and once again, this is something that I've heard for the third time in the last 2 days, that the federal government needs to do something to stand in the gap when there are places not taking advantage of certain funds. That we need that. On Tuesday in Austin, we'll celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that's just a prime example of the government stepping in. Now, we know there are some people who say that's government overreach, right? And things of that nature. But we got to continue to do that fight. And I'll just say this, that if President Biden can put all these resources in HBCUs, having not attended an HBCU, just imagine if he were president and had attended an HBCU, what he would do for HBCUs. That's just something that would naturally happen. But we also know that the president had a long-standing relationship with Delaware State University, which was a black school. But we need to find something more, to your point, that kind of moves the obstacle out of the way when there are funds that people are not taking advantage of. We need a workaround.
Thank you so much for your time today. My question is a direct question as well, and so I'm going to see if you can directly answer. I am aware that President Biden reestablished the Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships that has been longstanding, and in my opinion, by training, I'm a sexual ethicist, Dr. Monique Moultrie. That funding has tended to go to spaces that have not been affirming for women. And I would like to know what you have seen different in this regime's Office of Faith-Based. Like, I know the security programs, I know he re-upped funding for that. I know he's been doing a lot around anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. But what do you think are the hallmarks of this president's establishment of that partnership?
Is there a specific center or program that you think that had excluded women that I could speak to?
Well, a lot of the times the funding that you were just talking about, that, hey, if you got Girl Scouts, we pay for that. A lot of this funding, particularly in a supermajority state like this one, has gone for pregnancy crisis centers. And those crisis centers have been places that offered free ultrasounds, and then you get there and a pregnant woman is discouraged from considering any other option. And that is federally funded dollars. And yet, clinics that could provide comprehensive health care for women are not given access. So that, in my opinion, is a way in which that fund has been misused, but by the parameters, allows for faith-based interventions.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there. Something related though first is that we know that women's health also involves the black maternal health. And so, we have to see it all as connected, because some people don't understand that there's certain programs that give health care to women, but people focus on one side of what they may offer. I think that what we're talking is that whereas there was a time when folk had to present a full menu of options, that there are folk who bow out based upon their own religious freedom, and as a result, can exclude certain folk from certain types of care, and that's something that we got to find to a way to strike the balance. That it seems to me the way that we garnered support for certain initiatives was to give some groups the opportunity to bow out based upon their religious freedom. But just as we see with race and with gender, we have to be able to see things for what they are, and that is there are folk who hide behind belief as a way to discriminate against some folk. And that's what they use. I saw a T-shirt that said that if your religion causes you to hate someone because of your religion, you must be doing it wrong. And so how do we, remove those barriers, or how we work through that? I think some of it has been impacted by court decisions, but I think that we have to also become a little more sophisticated in our offerings, lest we fail to meet the targeted group. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm always hearing it from the other side, that they're discriminated against, when there's the people that we are seeking to provide assistance to are being discriminated against. And so I would love to talk to you further about that as well, and you and I can dialogue personally. I can give you my email address. I know that by heart. That's thomas.l.bowen@who.eop.gov. Once again, the email address is thomas.l.bowen, B-O-W-E-N, @who.eop.gov.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is LaShawn Fordyce. I'm relatively new here to Nashville. I moved here from New York about 2 years ago, but I love the city. Thank you for taking the time out to come and speak to us. So, to be quite frank with you, I'm not entirely convinced that the Biden administration or even the Harris administration is working for my best interest as an American citizen. I just don't feel like it has done a good job. And a lot of things that we discussed here, I don't feel like the federal government is a solution. I think the solution starts at the home, but that's another conversation for another time. But what I want to do is kind of shift the conversation over to economics. The Inflation Reduction Act passed in 2022, I believe, but inflation has not gone down. The cost of a lot of things has not gone down. And I know Biden only has about 6 months or so left, and I'm going to assume, I may be wrong, but if Harris is elected, that she's going to follow most of his policies or his trends, or whatever the case may be. But what is he going to do in the time that he still has left, or what is, if you can assume what Harris is going to do the time that she's going to have to help lower inflation and the cost of literally everything?
Well, thank you for that. I happen to, well, not happen, it's just some of the staff and I gathered together with the president as he addressed the nation to formally announce that he's deciding to put democracy above personal ambition and not seek another term. But what he made clear is that we still have work to do. And a part of that work to do is dealing with inflation. That is not enough to create, jobs. That we have to do something that impacts, the bread and butter issues. So that's the work we still have to do, and that's the work that we're engaging in to address that which we just stated. And I learn a lot from people who don't agree oftentimes. So I'm glad that you stated that is my responsibility and our responsibility in administration to let you know of the things that we believe are aiding people like yourself and to see what we can do. But the president has told us, and chief of staff has told us that we have to run through the tape. That it didn't end for us when the president made his announcement. In fact, since his announcement, my work has increased. I got more work to do because we got to jam it all in within 6 months. And he's doing it because there's an agenda that he wants to address. It's not about an election. It's not about a legacy. It's about making sure that he has kept his promise with the American people. And I think that with that determination that he has, that we will be able to forthrightly address inflation. But I would love to put you in contact with the Department of the Treasury. Once again, the Undersecretary met with faith leaders earlier this year in Dallas, Texas, along with Bishop Jakes and some others to talk about these economic concerns. So I would love to put you in contact. I learned early on in life. I think I was a junior in high school when I was going overseas for an exchange program. I went to Japan for a summer. Me and my Jerry curl. I couldn't get through TSA today because I had 2 bags. One with clothes and one was Jerry curl products from Johnson & Johnson. They would have never made it through TSA. But we were told that when we go overseas that people are going to see us as ambassadors for the country, and then when you don't know something, you just simply say you don't know. So that's why I want to put you in touch with the Department of Treasury to more forthrightly answer your question. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First, thank you again for coming and having this crucial conversation with us. Much like my peer, I have not been in Nashville very long myself. I have been here a year and about a month, let alone a member of Jefferson Street. And so I will start off by saying that I do appreciate Jefferson Street and the Biden administration for hosting something like this because I work in public policy, and one thing that I never could understand is when people say religion and politics don't mix or church and politics don't mix. I don't understand that because, again, story for another day. And so I don't mind putting myself out there. So, and it's gonna lead to my question, so everybody bear with me. I'm 28, right? So I call myself a millennial. I don't think I really connect with Gen Z because I do know how to use a map without my phone. But I'm single. I don't have any kids. I've never been married. And even when you talked about student loan forgiveness, mine weren't forgiven. When it comes to taxes, I run because I got to pay back. But what's leading me to say this is, it seems like a lot of odds could be stacked against me, but I want to talk about with my peers and what I've been experiencing is individuals not looking at the bigger picture. I could sit and wallow in that all day, but at the same time, when you're thinking about this type of decision, and I know we talked about children, and that's great. We do have to really connect with our youth. But when I'm talking about people who can vote right now, 18 and up, I see a lot of individuals that are like, yeah, well, we don't want a certain gender playing with us, so yeah, we're gonna vote for red, or, just very surface level things, and just trying to see how do we rally young people who can vote to look and learn the bigger picture of this decision when you're thinking about Supreme Court, like those that are just completely uninformed. We're looking at the small thing. I'm not saying that student loans are not a big thing, but to me, that's minuscule when I'm looking at this person could possibly appoint 3 more individuals that are far right that could take my right to vote, period. Those type of, so just wanting to see, because the thing is, as we try to speak and put things into existence, right, we're praying on it. We're saying President Harris. but we also have to live in reality. We have to get there. So I just want to know, just to strategize a little bit on how to convey young people to understand the bigger picture. $1,400, okay, cool. But, you know, the bigger picture of what this decision actually means. I know you all are hearing some of the things that have been said from the other side, and the misinformed is remaining misinformed, and I'm trying to do a little better. Like you said, I love to criticize, not judge, but I love to talk about what somebody's not doing if you're going to be talking a lot. And so what I want to do myself is be able to kind of reach out to my peers to say, I get this, but I really need you to get that. So just wanting to see if you have some advice on that, and yeah, that's my question.
Well, thank you. And some of it is difficult giving the Hatch Act, but let me just say at the basic level, I understand completely. Never married, no kids. I'm paying 30%, y'all, in tax, but I gladly do it because, you know, I'm for a safety net. And also my Christian, my belief system is one in which, you know, I take, for example, you know, love thy neighbor as thyself, which means that a person on one side of town that's considered to have great schools should want the same for the people on the other side of town. That's right. That's what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. It shouldn't be, you know, I'm going to get mine and you have to get yours. That we should all want certain things. And it crushes me sometimes when I hear people say, and I've done this when I've done voter registration drives. That's nonpartisan, y'all. And people say, I don't believe in that. You talking about somebody's pot boiling? That's no, I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. And tears come to my eyes. And there are some people on a religious level who don't participate in voting. Because they'll misconstrue render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, right? And so you got to have that basic conversation with people, and people say, I don't do politics. Well, your mayor does, your council member does, your state representative does, your governor does, and you have a president. That all impacts your life. And anything that they bring up of concern to them, it can be related and connected to the political process. Yes. The thing that causes me to vote in a presidential election is my highest concern, which is that which you just stated, and that is the Supreme Court. Mic drop. That is my concern. That at the forefront of my mind is Brown versus Board of Education. And if you think that if Roe v. Wade can be overturned,
That can be overturned too.
then stack them up in line. And it won't stop there. And this is not trying to scare someone. This is just the reality of what life is. That everything that matters to us is impacted by the political process, and there's no other greater decision than the selections on the Supreme Court. And that is what I think about when I go to vote for the particular candidate that I support. But a lot of this is once again education, and we used to have in churches, right, citizenship schools, that we used to teach these things. When the schools didn't, then we taught them in our churches. Look what Florida is doing around Black history. They don't want to teach it there. They're going to the churches. So a part of our voter registration, but we do it wrong. We want people just to go out and vote. And then we go get them when the next election comes. Instead of involving them in the political process and continuing to educate them and have them actively engaged in the political process. I love talking about sports and the Olympics. I love Beyonce and Jay. I wish we had as much political knowledge. And this is I hate to do this as an older person, because it always happened when I was growing up. We need to know more about the two people running, or in this case, 3 or 4 running for election, as we do about the beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. We can do both, though, too, right? Because you can understand that, you can understand this. But I think that we have to do more to actively make the decisions in everyday life understandable for folk. Because the last thing you can do is say, we died for this, so you got to vote. Although you should vote because we died for this, right? But you have to come with more and more. And I believe it takes more people like yourself involved. That you're, my friend, Eddie Glaude has a book about We Are the Leaders. And in that, he's making the case, right? That we are the leaders. This is Nashville. You don't travel to Nashville as someone who works in politics. This is a pilgrimage. This is Nashville, y'all. This is John Lewis. This is Diane Nash. This is Nashville. And I come here to get right, to remind myself, to get centered. And so a part of it too is perhaps I used to work for the Children's Defense Fund, and they have a student leadership network. And I would say to get involved with them because they have a great platform in terms of about the civic education.
So I actually just left the Haley Farm with the Children's Defense Fund. So I work for the American Heart Association, but we also house the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers and Voices for Healthy Kids. So I'm already a part of that network, so that's great to know. So I don't want to say that anything else you have, just let me know, but I am already connected with them.
So there is an office, but they use the word youth. So it's just so rampant. But I think that you and I can connect with some more resources in their organizations. There are some people doing the work. I know a sister who does work out of Memphis here that we connect. But it could also be that you can share more ideas. I'm the first to say that sometimes my mentors are younger than I am. And I'm sure that you can mentor a whole lot of older people. That I had what's called a kitchen cabinet. That those are the people that I call to get information from, that guide my work. I know I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I surround myself with smart people. And you might just be just the person I need that I can call and email and say, girl, what are we gonna do about this? What are your thoughts about this? The smart person knows how to ask for help. So I thank God for sending you this way on today. But let us dialogue and make sure I give the card before I leave, so we can work through this thing together. The worst thing you can do is see someone who's asking something and not try to meet them, just to walk away from it. I just can't do that.
Hi, Reverend Bowen. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm grateful to be here too and to observe and listen. I do want to brag a little bit on our city and one of our agencies here. It's called Metro Action Commission. It is both federally funded and locally funded, and it works to break generational cycles of poverty, both in the short term and the long term, and it oversees all of the Head Starts. And we've heard a lot about education today. And it is, evidence-based and highly researched that how a child shows up in their teen years is highly affected by early childhood education in those toddler years. So our Head Starts are so important here. And the Metro Action Commission is so highly effective. It has been studied as by Harvard as a national approach to breaking generational cycles of poverty. The Head Starts are so highly impactful. They're providing dentistry, they're providing physicians and primary care physicians, they're providing nutrition, they're educating parents. It's truly a two-generational approach. But what we have seen, and I really had a privilege of being appointed by previous mayors to serve as both vice chair and treasurer on that commission. I'm not there anymore, but I am still so proud of the work that's being done there. So I wanted to use this time to share this with the administration, is that what we've seen and continue to see is that more and more children could be served, but we don't have the educators to go in there. And it's a pretty simple fix, because you can there's K through 12 educators that want to move over to early childhood education. However, the way that the process is now for that at the federal level, they would have to go back to school. They have all the transferable skills to go into early childhood education. And some of the early childhood education might want to go into the K through 12 the more we move closer to universal pre-K. So I wanted to encourage you and the administration just to take a look at this process and the requirements around early childhood educating credentials and how we can move more educators into that space, because we have to figure out where they're falling in the river, right, and go back down. And we have an incredible agency here in Nashville that's leading the way. And if we can get it right here, we can set standards for the rest of the country, as we do, like you said, the pilgrimage.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that our Center for Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships at the Department of Ed will be a great contact, that they can work with you and perhaps make certain recommendations, because some of these, they start with recommendations, then become policy. Maggie Siddiqui, she is the person who runs that center, and she is powerful, just a wonderful partner. So make sure I can get to you Maggie Siddique's information. I happen to have all these numbers in my other phone in my bag, else I'll be reading them off to you right now. But Maggie Siddique will be a great partner around that. Realize that a lot of your work also, I'm sure, has you working with USDA as well as HUD. But I want to put you in contact with Maggie.
I've heard you speak often today about the Hatch Act, and I'm a 10-year federal employee, and every year we had to have training and sign our life away that we would not use it in a negative way, and we were held responsible, you would be fired or whatever. I want to know why no one ever stops the former president. He does it every single day that he wakes up. And I never hear anyone say, you're not supposed to do that. That's do you know why?
Yeah, the president and some people they don't have to oblige by it. It's for those. It's really for those who are employed by said governments. It was the same way when I was working for the city. But there are certain people who work in government who are political appointees that they definitely have to abide, lest they use their office for that particular purposes. But there are certain individuals who are allowed to, like the mayor of a city and other people, because just that, as difficult as it may be for someone like myself, it's even more difficult for them. So that's just it. I can't recite it all verbatim. I just know what I bet not do.
Yes, sir. I have a question concerning events over the last week. Is there some kind of way they can do background checks on the policemen that are on the force? And I have thoughts of rubber bullets in those types of situations instead of real bullets.
And so some of that, and I don't have it all to memory, but some of that is addressed in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, right? That we know, well, I can't comment but so much because it's a legal a matter. But people who do some things, you can just tell it wasn't their first time. Hard stop. And so I think some of that is a part of the policing act. There is someone who thinks that police should be exempt from prosecution.
Yeah, they do.
And has stated that. President Biden, Vice President Harris do not believe that. We're talking about an act that will keep folk, make them more responsible, whereas there are some who want to go in a different direction.
Qualified immunity, which is crap.
And so, but that the George Floyd Act is something that I could share in detail with you or point you to. So the I don't know how. I don't think it also includes something about rubber bullets, you know, and the like. You know, sometimes I look at art and entertainment as examples, and I see something in that in Watchmen, that show with Regina King. Just like I see something in Handmaid's Tale that mirrors what's going on right now. These things deal with not only future but certain realities. But I just point you to that act. How are we on time? Ooh, 3 minutes. Y'all talk a lot. That's me.
Well, I'll be brief.
President Harris, take as much time as you want, President Harris.
I'll be brief, but to my young lady's point, we've talked out, right? So my question is, when it comes for the Biden administration to call for the George Floyd Policing Act, what is your advice to the community, to the church, of what we need to do to get that across the hump, right? As well as the expand the child's tax credits. There's some things that is beneficial to our community right now if we get it across the hump. There is a concerted effort to suppress our vote, but there's not a concerted effort to stop the gun violence.
Well, thank you for that. And that's exactly some of the work that we're going to be trying to wrap up to complete the George Floyd Act and as well as the child tax credit. I met with faith leaders earlier this year who said that they are putting pressure, and they believe that perhaps when it comes to a vote, that some things may change and we can get that through. I think that we as people and community can continue to contact our representatives at the federal level. This is that I'm talking about legislation, y'all. I'm not talking about a particular a congressperson, but those are the ones who now it'll be in the hands there. What I do know is the president will sign it. That if it comes to a vote and it is passed, that the president will sign it, and that we just have to make sure that we, put pressure on folk to act accordingly. But when the president says that we're going to run through the tape with each day that we have over the course of the next 5 to 6 months, that's what we're trying to do. We'll be hearing things when people want to stall something. They'll call people lame ducks and that nature. That's how President Obama got robbed of a vote, right? Yes. Which changed everything. Yep. Which changed everything. It'd be a different day with that alone, right? But we're gonna run. That's what we're saying. We're gonna run through the tape. But those two pieces are key to the work that we have ahead. It's so good to talk to you all, to know that there are people that I can reach out to, because as I make this pilgrimage, that Tennessee has great weight in our minds. And one of the things that blows my mind is how much input that I'll have on something. I'm not saying they always take my advice. They'll ask and they'll consider. It's up to me to press the case. And all these things are things that come past the desk on a daily basis. There are no weekends working at the White House. There are no night times. It's just things just keep coming and coming. But I do it because this is what my mama wanted me to do. This is what she changed bed sheets for at the nursing home where she worked. This is why she did doubles. This is why she worked through holidays, put me and my brother through Morehouse and to grad school so that we would have an opportunity to make sure that we don't forget the bridges that brought us over. I'll end where I began. Once you make it over, never forget the praise and bridges that brought you over. Mama said, watch the people you pass going up the ladder, they're the same people you pass on your way down. My mom said that I don't say anything bad to somebody because I don't want them doing something to themselves based on something I done said. I thank my mama for all these words and wisdoms that she poured into me. And I quote my mama for all the mamas here, letting you know that your sons and daughters don't forget. That all that you pour into us, we don't forget. So I'm thankful for all the individuals in my life that has saved me from many days, from many dangers, toils, and snares. And I'm grateful that you all decided that instead of watching the Olympics and donning red hats, you'd come here today. I'm thankful to your pastor for opening up his doors to this gathering, and the Eleanor Holmes Norton, our wonderful congresswoman in D.C., she says, with hope, all things are possible. Yes, so the one thing that folk on the other side want us to do is lose our hope. But we will not lose our hope. We will not lose the faith. We will continue to fight, knowing that we are doing the good fight. Somebody said, get in good trouble. Good trouble. If you're going to get in trouble, get in some good trouble. And so let us continue to get in some good trouble. Thank you, and God bless you.
Reverend Bowen, we thank you again for taking the time to come visit our community. At this time, this will conclude this event. Please feel free to come forward and greet Reverend Bowen and have further dialogue as we formally dismiss. God bless each of you. Have a wonderful